when your wife is unhappy, you're not happy, and it's going to affect the children. But we tried the best we could so we can give them a good environment. But for us, there was no joy and there was no peace. And this really bothered me a lot. And this was like towards the latter parts of my 30s. 30, yeah, maybe 31, no, 30, 39, 41. This is when it's felt like, everything was falling apart. Because by then I realized the dreams that I had not materialized. And I had a wife who was miserable. I was miserable. And what is there for our children? Now, I started chasing the wind. Like I said, it was very difficult for me to focus on ministry or trying to serve God at this stage. Because all that was on my mind and my wife's mind was like, we are poor, we are broke. Poverty. And so that became something that stood right in front of us. All we were thinking about, how do we escape poverty? So we tried a few things together. Me, as an individual, I had no business acumen. My heart was not in business. My soul was not in business. My heart, my soul, my everything was the ministry. Serving people and serving God, that is me. But my wife, she wanted to do business. And she later said to me that she mentioned to me before we got married that she wanted to be in business. Maybe she did, but I don't recall it. I said maybe she did. 70% she could be right that she told me, but maybe I did not take her seriously then. I said maybe. But in my mind's eyes anyway, I did not have an issue with her doing business, because in my mind, so long as I can focus on ministry, so long as I can do what God has called me to do, she can do business. She can study. She can do this, she can do that. But I just did not know how that would impact me and the vision that I had for my life. So her doing business was meant that I had to be implicated in that business. She needed my attention. She needed me to get involved. She needed me to do things with her. But I wasn't prepared to do that. I felt like it was infringing on my psyche, on my mind, and I don't like to do what I don't want to do. I didn't. So, in this mindset of trying to get away from poverty, we tried a number of things. They failed. We tried to do a transportation business in the DRC. They failed miserably. She tried to do run a food business. That failed miserably. And between, there were a number of things that I couldn't list them here. Just pick the two. So eventually, that's when I was like, I'll do whatever it takes. I will do whatever it takes for us to escape this poverty. And as I mentioned earlier, I decided to go to the DRC. And with everything that unfolded while there, as I mentioned, in the earlier chapter. But you know, after you have fought so hard, you have given it everything. By this time, I tell you, when I was in Congo, my mind shifted away from the ministry. I kept saying to myself, I want to just get this money, make this deal. If it happens, it goes through, I have the money, we can at least buy a house, and then I can focus on ministry. My wife would be in business, and I can focus on ministry. Wrong priorities, I understand now. It was wrong priorities. It should have been ministry first, and everything will come after. But that's not how my wife was looking at things. I believed in it, but that's not how she was looking at things, because she could tell that the time that we had spent together, I have not even done or succeeded in ministry. She has not seen me succeed in ministry, and she's seen that I've done nothing. But here is when I take a step back and say to myself, my problem started when we got married. Anyone will tell you, if they are in a ministry or in any vocation, I don't know, but pretty much in the ministry, for me, if there is no peace in your house, you won't be able to do anything. If there is no peace in your house where you are, you won't be able to, especially when it comes to dealing with the human soul, human spiritual activities. Because the enemy will make sure that you don't ever get to fulfill your ministry, your calling, whatever you have received from God to fulfill in this world. And for me, it's like the ministry was affected after I got married because there was no peace. I'm not saying my partner was the problem. No, in no way she was the problem. I was my own problem. I made that decision to get married to her. I made that decision to live with her. She also has her own life. She's got her different things that she wanted to do in life. She had sacrificed a lot to be with me. But this is when I come back to it to say that I take on responsibility. And that's what it all comes down to. Me really sitting down and looking back, I know that it was my responsibility. But I lost my identity. It was very difficult. I became unbalanced. So I went to Congo, not because I wanted to be away from my family, not because I wanted to be a non-resident father, because the pressure of life that I had received prior to going, when I say pressure, I don't mean my wife put pressure on me, But everything that I have just described before, to say that we had nothing, we were poor, we were broke, nothing to our name, and that made my wife unhappy. One of the things I'll never forget is that I became how poor I was during our marriage. If you live in a housing estate or a council house, you're poor. That is, by the standard of this country, you're poor. Social housing. And the stigma with it, to be honest, I didn't really care before I got married. It's like I didn't have any problem at all living in a council flat. It didn't bother me either. I would have lived that way until I die. It wouldn't bother me. But it did bother my wife. Rightfully so. Because she knows she's more capable of better than that. I agree 100%. She doesn't like to be dependent on the state, on the government. She hates it. Rightfully so. And I applaud her for that. She knows of her abilities, capacity, what she can do in life. Amazing person she is. But I also do know people who are just happy with what they have. And that includes myself. And hence, the conflict intensified because what she's looking at, what she's saying is making her unhappy. And now, me, I'm trying to say, what can I do to make her happy? She's not asking me to do this, but I have to figure out what to do. In the meantime, she's also working her life off or out just to make things work. She tried this business. She is a strong woman, very clever, articulate, strong-willed, managerial, leader. She's all of this. But I just think now she married the wrong person. Sometimes I wish she had married somebody else with whom she could have had a much better life than someone like me. Because I don't have the vision that she has. I don't have the desire that she has. Making it big, living it big, I don't have that. Would I say no to it if I had opportunity to? Of course not. Wouldn't I like to live a much better life than? Of course, yes. But they don't have the same value in me. But she could see opportunities around her. And she knew if I could do this and do that, I can make it. She's looking at her life and where she comes from, what she has left behind, and she's the firstborn of her family, her background, her family. She has pressures of her own. Mostly, what will happen to her children? That's the most important thing that she's always said to me, is what will happen to